What's good, everybody? Taking you through another broadcast here, Fast Break, here on Fast Break, live for Ice Sports Radio. You're the week forward sports. On tonight's show, D-Lock, the conference finals are set, and we got a chance to crown a new NBA champion. What's your thoughts on that?
That makes the NBA very interesting and tough. I mean, we usually see a few teams be competitive, trying to get back to back. Very rare. I mean, was. But it's new to see a new champ come around. Boston was Boston. Now we get somebody else. It's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. You know, the previous two games, and we're going to talk about it here, blowouts, but I think entertaining blowouts in a sense and whatnot. But we'll dive into a lot of stuff here tonight, especially the Knicks. The Knicks fans they're very live right now, as y'all can tell. So we're going to dive into a lot of stuff here tonight. The Knicks going to the conference championship, first time in 25 years. We're going to come out the young dog, OKC or Minnesota. And do the Pacers, can they surprise people and make it to the finals? So we can discuss all that here on Fast Break here live for Ice Sports Radio. You'll be for sports. We'll catch y'all on the other side after these few short messages.
Hi, eSports Radio fans. This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clanking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps. for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at @SealTheDeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the iSports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop, including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
All right, let's see. I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger. Oh, let's not do that. Ooh, kind of close right there. All right, hold on just a second. Ooh, that ain't gonna work. That ain't gonna work. Ooh, there we go. There we go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in with us here tonight. We have a great show for y'all tonight here for IE Sports Radio. Your week for always sports. Try to get all that crap out the way. All right. As you see on the ticker right there, do follow IE Sports Radio on all your social media feeds: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Trying to get the road to 1,000 on the way. Subscribe, hit the bell notification when we go live. You'll see us go live every Sunday at 7 o'clock. So then hit that subscribe button. Check out iSportsRadio.com for all your latest shows, news, and feeds as well. And check out our own personal website on iSportsRadio.com/fastbreak. Do give us a look at our bio right there. And I see our lovely faces on the website as well. D-Lock, these conference finals, not conference finals. Well, the C conference finals kind of leading up to a new NBA champion. And I think also leading up to like a potential fresh face in the national scene, if that makes sense. Because you look at the landscape now, you got the Knicks, Pacers, Thunder, who just won big over the Denver Nuggets today, 125-193. And you got the Minnesota Timberwolves back in the conference finals again for the first time ever in back-to-back conference finals appearances. Let's go with this one first. OKC win big over Denver, 125-193. SGA, 35 points in that matchup. Denver, they were up in the first quarter, and after that, OKC just rained the thunder on them, no pun intended, and they win big in that matchup.
Right.
Especially in the second half, they just rolled through all that stuff. D-Lock, your thoughts on the series and your thoughts of OKC making it to the conference finals?
Well, I think we talked about this, last year. This team was still ranked as one of the best teams in the West. We were thinking that they were going to have to get older, to get more mature and get there. Now, it has happened again. I think this is one of the better teams in the West and in the NBA. I think the biggest thing that helped this team, as we've seen it with Minnesota last year going against the Denver Nuggets, is the bigs that they have. To slow down Joker, you got to have bodies. You got to throw bodies at them. And that's what you got out of OKC. I mean, Chet Holmgren, Isaiah Hartenstein, which they recently signed. I think those are pieces that help them big time. We know SGA is going to be who he's going to be. But the good thing about SGA that we know is he's not that player that the team only relies on him. He gets his points, he gets his assists, he gets his boards, yes. But you got everybody else around this team that can fit in and play their role. They have a lot of defenders. You got the championship caliber player, and Alex Caruso, who's been there, who knows what it feels like to be NBA champ. So he's bringing that energy. So you got these guys on this team that play that huge role. So I think OKC, as young as they are, has made a huge step. Now, granted, I think one thing that did hurt the Denver Nuggets is defense. They could not play defense. I mean, the team that they won, when they won the championship a few years back, they did have KCP. They did have Bruce Brown. Those guys are gone. So the defensive side, I think, has hurt from that. And that's what impacted the big stuff for Joker, for him to get his numbers and have some defense on the other side. Denver was very inconsistent on the defensive side this year. So they faced a team that did actually have some defense in Caruso, Dortz came in. SGA can play when he needs to. Jalen Williams off the bench will go out there and get numbers. You have guys that can throw bodies at the Joker, and SGA can still get his numbers. So kudos to OKC for that. The question is, what happens when they do play Minnesota, which I think is as deep as they are roster-wise. But that's a big move, man. When you beat a team like the Denver Nuggets, your confidence goes up.
I think for me, going to today's matchup, you knew coming in, you didn't know Eric Gordon was going to play or not.
Yeah.
That one was I was thinking to myself, man, I was like, when Shannon had that report, I was like, is he not? But, and then, saw reports that he's going to play and tough it out. And I give him all the credit in the world. I think I said this before. He's been an unsung hero, not only for the Nuggets, but I think in the playoff run, besides Julius Randle, and you can throw those other folks in there too, that really it was like the glue guy on their team.
Right.
If they didn't have, set person on their team, it couldn't have gotten far in the playoffs from where they at. And Eric Gordon, if they didn't have him in this playoff run, they probably would have lost to the Clippers in the first round. And that's when even though I said that series was going to 7, if they didn't have Eric Gordon in a couple of those games, Clippers would close it out. Same thing as OKC series. If they didn't have Eric Gordon, I think OKC probably would close it out a little bit earlier. Maybe. I don't know. But for OKC, to take this before this one to get 7, I shouldn't be surprised. I kind of wondered if Denver kind of ran out of gas because you just went 7 against the Clippers as well.
Mm-hmm.
And like you mentioned, OKC got those young legs. And I'm not saying Denver's old, but you got a lot of guys right there that got a lot of trek on them for the past several years. Jokic, Gordon, Westbrook, Christian Braun. I don't know, granted, yeah, some of y'all probably listening and saying, he's young. Yes, I know, but he gets 70 minutes too. Jamal Murray. I'll get on Michael Porter's ass in a second. But you got a young OKC team that got fresh legs in a sense, young, vibrant, cohesive.
Right.
That's the main thing. And last year I think it was kind of a disappointment that they didn't make it to the conference finals. But now, okay, they look back. I'll say, okay, whatever. Come back this year, number one seed again. Now they're in the conference finals. They learned from their mistakes, close out at home. Now they're back in the conference finals for the first time in a long time. So I think, big win for them. I'm very excited about this conference finals because, it's going to be a good one.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a good one. And I think, this is kind of what the league needed. Anthony Edwards, SGA. Two players under 25. Rudy Gobert. How did he handle the paint with Isaiah Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren? How do you defend those guys? And Rudy's in the news for other things too, which is not needed right now. But anyways, how's that going to work? Julius Randle. Can Julius Randle continue his strong play against OKC? That's another thing I'm going to look for as well. But back to finish up on this series, though, big time win for OKC. For Denver, your eyes, D-Lock. You mentioned about the defense being gone. KCP is with your Orlando Magic. Bruce Brown is with New Orleans, I believe. Westbrook at times could be great for them, and at times could be bad for them. Mike Malone, Calvin Booth are gone. What happens with Denver now, in your opinion? They got some questions. Granted, they got Jokic, but they got some questions.
Yeah. I think one person that did disappear that we talked about before, has disappeared before in this series before, is Michael Porter. We didn't see too much of him. It's just that time where they do possibly think about moving him. I think Russ was a hell of a pickup, but also Russ has those games where he just is shooting terrible.
Yeah.
So I think that played a part as well. But for me, I think this team I think that you keep the core together. Bron, Jamal Murray, Jokic, Aaron Gordon. I think you keep those guys together and you go deep. And this I think Denver is set up for a team that is perfect for the NBA draft. You go get you one or two people that can possibly fill those roles that they need. Because like I said, the lack of defense is what I think really impacted this team. Jokic is going to be Joker regardless. He's a top 2, if not best player in the league. Jamal Murray is going to be Jamal Murray. I think that them not playing the defense that they could have played a huge part. Now, granted, do they attack free agency to go get some more defenders and see how that play out for them? But KCP, Bruce Brown, who isn't there anymore, I think we really seen that this series. They went against a team that had depth all the way everywhere, from center, power forward, point guard, everywhere. Hell, Kason Wallace had a pretty decent series, so did Aaron Wiggins. So we have a lot of these guys that can just kind of do what they want. Joker can only do so much. You don't want to get a shootout. The Denver Nuggets don't need to always get in the shootout. And I think that's what helped them when they went to the NBA Finals a few years ago. Playing a team like a Miami Heat, who's known for the defense. So I think that what they need to do is keep their core. You have some questions to answer with Michael Porter. Do you possibly move him? Is he in a possible trade opportunity? Do you need another shooter? Do you move him for some more defense? So I think that's the biggest thing for me. I think that this team is still going to be consistent. Probably Russ is probably not going to come back. But they need some more depth and they need more defense. And we definitely seen that throughout this whole series.
I think I look at this Denver team. You still got Jokic in his prime. That's the main thing. I think you still got him in his prime. Jamal Murray, a good complementary piece for Jokic. Now, you got those two out the way. Who you got left? Aaron Gordon, you got to keep him around. Like, you can't move him. He's
Right.
so that he's too valuable to get rid of. Unless you get somebody like Giannis in a deal or something like that, or whatever, something like that. You make that move. I'm looking at we've been doing this show for at least 5 years, 6 years now.
Yep.
I've been on Michael Porter's ass for a while.
Yes.
If I could put somebody in the blame on this series, it's got to be him. I know Russ did some things and stuff like that. I understand that. But I'm not paying Russ $35 million. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
I know Russ is a former MVP and all that stuff, but I kind of know what I got in Russ. Michael Porter Jr., I don't know what I got in him. And if the reports are made true that Kroenke didn't want to get rid of Michael Porter Jr. around the trade deadline, that Kevin Booth had a deal to move him for what? I don't know. Then you got to start looking at ownership. If ownership kind of nicks training Michael Porter Jr., then you got to look at ownership there. That's my opinion. Like whatever reason you nix that deal, or you think Michael Porter Jr. is not untradeable or whatever, dog, I'm looking at you. So for me, I looked at the stat line before, the setup to kind of remind myself, how many points Michael Porter had. Game 6, going to that game, 10 points. Granted, they did win that game, but he only had 10 points in that match at 28 minutes. Then we get to today's game. Michael Porter Jr. only had 6 minutes and 23 minutes. 3 for 8 shooting, 0 for 4 for 3-point land. So you paying him $35 million. I know he had lower stat lines as well, scoring wise, in the previous games, but he did not show up at all. And you kind of look at the box scores and the scores of these games that, his contributions are and whatnot. Like game 5, he only had like two points in that matchup. And they lost by 7. So I'm just looking at it like this. Like, you paying that dude $35 million and he can't give you 10 points a night or whatever, then you got to go. Like, and I know the tax aprons and stuff like that, that's going to be a big issue coming around this offseason with a lot of teams, especially one team we're going to talk about later on, the Celtics. You got to make some hard decisions. Now, if Kroenke still think he can be a contributor, hey, that's on him.
Right.
But, I think Bruce Brown's a free agent, I believe, this summer. So if he is, hey, talk to him, try and get him back. Get some familiarity there. It's got the young guys, Braun, Strawler, I believe, Pickett, got riding those young kids a little bit more. But I look at Michael Porter Jr., man, it's like, damn, dude. I know Jokers can do everything, but hell to dude out.
Yeah, that's how I see it. Same thing.
So for Denver, that, and then if I think Alaman will get the job for at least next year. So I think that coaching thing, a little question there, but I think Alaman will get the role next year and see how that goes. But for Denver, I think they're fine. But I think there's like one big salary player on the team that they can move to kind of fill out that roster better.
Yeah, I think that's like I said, I think that's the biggest thing for me is I think this team they have a nice roster still. The team that won the championship is still there at the base of it. It's just now, you are looking at a team that could not play defense at all. And it actually shown when Bruce Brown left. We talked about it. Since then, it's just now you're running into a OKC team who got numerous options. Alex Caruso can catch fire sometimes when he needs to. He plays defense. He's known for his defense, but he can pop some threes every now and then. SGA is going to get his number. Jalen Williams is playing outstanding right now. So when you have those guys, like you're running to a team that can score 115 if they need to. That's if they need to. You're not playing defense. So now, you run into a situation like, well, damn, like, we can't hold a team under 100. So Jokers can give you 30 and Jamal Murray can give you 25 or 30. But these other teams, the teams you're playing against, they're still putting up 100 a clip, 110 a clip. So I think that needs to be the main focus. They have the range, they have the bodies, but they're not playing enough defense. So some of these guys, they may have to move around. Michael Porter may be one of them.
Yeah. So Denver, we'll see what happens in the offseason. And draft wise as well, who they draft and whatnot. This is going to be a very deep draft. I know a lot of people kind of hug on Cooper Flagg, the Rucker kids, Diamond Stone, and others. The kid from Baylor, I can't touch his name right now. But after that, still solid players coming down in the draft. So if they find somebody draft, develop and whatnot, I think this team will be okay. But We'll see. We'll keep an eye on Denver right there. On the other side of things, the Timberwolves closed out on the Warriors 121-110 in game 5 at home. Randall, 29 points and 22 points for Anthony Edwards. I forgot to put his name there, but 22 points for Edwards and 12 assists there. D-Lock, your thoughts on this series and your opinion on the Wolves making it back-to-back conference finals?
I think that, for one, I'll say this early. I think Steph Curry's injury played a huge part.
Yeah.
Steph is one of the greatest players we've seen, best shooters of all time. I think he played a huge part in that injury, probably played a very, very huge part in his team. Maybe getting to 6 games, maybe possibly 7. But more credit to the Minnesota Timberwolves. In the beginning of the season, we talked about the trade between the New York Knicks and Minnesota Timberwolves. Carter Towns and Julius Randle. Like, that trade literally started the season off for us. Like, that was literally like the day one thing that we talked about. My biggest thing was, well, hell, you had Karl-Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert. You were giving Denver Nuggets fits because of that. And I thought that was going to work. But, you go move another piece, get a piece like a Julius Randle. He comes in, he plays perfect for this team. He fits perfect. Gobert is not asking to put up 20 points a game. He's more so that one that they need for defense and boards. And Ant-Man is just growing into this star player. I mean, it is what it is. He's coming into that guy. So I think the Timberwolves are playing great. They have the depth too. I think that's the biggest thing that this team has. They're matched up perfectly, with OKC, because both teams have that depth, right? Mm-hmm. They both got that star player that could be an MVP candidate in SGA or Anthony Edwards, but they're not relying on just them to put up all the points. They got their guys, but, Alexander Walker can put up points. Dante DiVincenzo can put up points. Julius Randle, who had an outstanding series against the Warriors, can put up points. So you have a numerous amount of guys that can get things cooking. And I think that's what benefited them the most in this series. Now, even with that being said, also another person that dominated was Rudy Gobert. He dominated extremely well. I mean, and we've seen this since Golden State traded away James Wiseman. We were thinking, well, what the hell are they going to do with a big man? They don't have no big man down there. They got Kuminga. They got Draymond.
Still don't.
Yeah, so it's at this point we figured, what are they going to do, down low? And Naj Reid kind of got what he wanted. Rudy Gobert got what he wanted. Julius Randle ended up getting what he wanted. So that's what really burnt the Golden State Warriors. Also, Jaden McDaniels had a hell of a series. So these guys they're peaking at the right time, and it's helping out their star player. we always talk about, like I said, the stars and Anthony Edwards and SGA. And Anthony Edwards is that guy, but everybody else is playing a role. So, they came in, they played well. And kudos to them, man. I think Minnesota is going to be very hard to stop. Hell, I even said it when they played against the Lakers the first round. This team is not one to look over.
Mm-hmm.
And Julius Randle has been outstanding this whole playoffs. And the matchups have been perfect for him, but also he's proven that he's that guy, and that trade was worth it. So for me, as much as Steph Curry being absent played a part, I think this series is more so about the Timberwolves. The depth that they have, like I said, I think the defense that they bring as well, and that's gonna play a huge part in this next series. So Timberwolves, beating the Warriors is a huge thing. Jimmy Butler wasn't the Jimmy Butler that we've seen in Miami. I think that Jimmy Butler, that Jimmy Butler is probably gone, more than likely. Now, granted, he's probably a good wingman. He probably can help, but I don't think him leading the team I think that's over. And that's what I mean by Steph being absent kind of impacted a little bit of how many games they could possibly have won in this series. But I think that the Timberwolves this was a perfect matchup for the Timberwolves, being the fact that the Warriors can't do anything with big men. And it showed that. So congrats to the Timberwolves, man. I'm really happy to see that. Ant-Man looked like he's ready to, make that push for the NBA Finals also.
I think for me, and I said this on our show's account right here at Fastback IESR on X/Twitter. I said, like, Jimmy Butler kind of man down this series, like you brought up. It's like, where's the fire? Where's the punch at and whatnot? Where's the takeover? And especially when Steph went out in game one, I'm like, okay, your time to shine, dog. Where you at, Jimmy? We talked about all throughout the season. From like one contract extension, him, Pat Riley butting heads, getting suspended and whatnot, want to be traded. And they ain't finally get traded to go to state. Okay. Let's see what can happen. What can you do? Show Pat Riley, whatnot. And I think he kind of laid the egg, in my humble opinion. And then don't get me started on Draymond. It's like I understand how he is for the team, but other times it's just like, damn, dog. Like every game, it's like it's always something.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, come on, dude. And with Steph being out, you kind of have to be that, I guess, glue guy for the rest of the guys, and he can't do it.
He's been the longest too.
Like, he's been the longest too. Right there, long Steph. And playing wise, you can see the difference with Steph being out.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like them going for the basket more. Minnesota closing out more better. The court is not as spread out and whatnot. You saw that difference drastically. I said, damn. And I know they got Buddy Hield out there. I know they got the Brandon out there, whatnot. But they don't scare you to death like Steph does.
Right.
But you saw that big old difference when Steph was out. And another thing, I think I forgot what analyst brought this up. I think it was Barkley. He brought this up about the Warriors. They ain't really got no backup point guard like that. Like, and I know it's like, really? I was like, yeah, well, no. Because Gary Payton, more of a small forward. Brandon Podzinski, more of a two guard. I mean, he can play the point, but he's not really a point guard. Jimmy, like a point forward in a sense. They really got that backup point guard. And this is when you kind of miss Jordan Poole in the sense that, you got that backup point guard to lead the second unit and whatnot. So, for me, for the Warriors, this is the best matchup possible for the Wolves. Like I said about Julius Randle for the past couple of weeks, him and Aaron Gordon be on like right here for me as one of the top players in the playoffs for their teams. And Randle really showed that again. And then kind of like the Lakers, no big man to scare you. Only thing difference with the Warriors, you got Steph on the side to kind of space the floor and whatnot offensively. But same thing with the Lakers. They're getting a real big inside. That had that in years. And you got, 7'2" where we go bear down low. Julius Randle, 6'8", 270. As well, Nas Reed, 6'9", and whatnot. You can take advantage of that. Now, next round, different story. But against the Warriors that can go very extra small and try to play Draymond, who's 6'5", 6'6", down low, you got to take advantage of those opportunities. And the Bold North breakdown showed up in our show, Minnesota show. This series is going to be a battle. As I said on my show, the Wolves can beat our losses to any team on any given night. We're going to dive into that just a second. But to wrap this up, D-Lock, man, the Warriors got a lot of questions.
Mm-hmm.
Do you stick around J-Ron? What do you do big man-wise? Because you got the Lakers down south in Southern Cal, they're going to be looking for a big man. Other teams probably looking for a big man as well. So a lot of questions for the Warriors, what they're going to do in the offseason. But I think one thing for sure, like you said, they're going to roll it again with Jimmy and Steph and see how that goes for a full season and go from there. Any final thoughts from your side before our first break?
Like I said, I definitely think Steph and Jimmy is going to be something that they're going to try. They want to see it from the beginning. But they do have questions that they have to need answers. I think Kuminga needs to play a bigger role next year. Also, I think Draymond, like I said, his time is dwindling out of there. But that glue that they need to have, we're used to Draymond, but this team is not the same team we've seen 10 years ago. And that's one thing that we have to realize. So to me, maybe they add another big, like you said, look into big man this offseason because they need one desperately. That's just what it is, especially with what the West is bringing right now and seeing what Denver's going to have. OKC, Minnesota, these teams are not going anywhere. So the Lakers, obviously. So they're gonna have to figure some things out, especially if they want to try to get Steph another ring before he retires.
Real quick you brought up Kuminga and how hot and cold they've been with him since his time there. Do you think he's around there next year? You think try to make a big splash for somebody?
I think he is, unless they make a huge splash for Giannis, or somebody of that nature. You see what Kuminga can do and what he is capable of and what he fits now. But the only way he's moved is if they're getting a bigger piece. I think Steph and Jimmy is there. Maybe they move for a huge big, and that means maybe possibly moving Kuminga. So I think he's there, but I wouldn't be surprised if they move him. But for a third piece or a big three, bringing somebody in to be a big three with Steph and Jimmy.
Yeah, I'm curious what they do with him this offseason because he played pretty well in the series, but it's just like Wise Man, Moses Moody. They just I cuss like this, but they shit is the bed with those three dudes.
Yeah,
let's be real about it. They shit the bed with them, and they should have had bigger impacts on this team by this point than what they are right now.
Mm-hmm.
But, ladies and gentlemen, we'll take our first break. On the other side of things, real quick, question to y'all: Who do you want you to carry your squad to the finals? SGA or Edwards? Also, on the other side of things, we got to talk about those New York Knicks and the Boston Celtics. But this is Fast Break here, live for iSports Radio, your lead for all sports, and we'll catch you on the other side.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IU Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Are you a Tar Heel, Blue Devil, Demon Deacon, or maybe even a Gamecock? Do you cheer for the Panthers, the Canes, the Crown? And check out the Carolina Sports Update every week with me, Neil Curtis, to get the latest and greatest on all the sports action in the Carolinas. We'll be talking pro sports, ACC and SEC football, basketball, baseball, and everything in between. We'll even talk a little Formula One racing now and again. So, for the best hour of Carolina sports coverage, catch me each week on Carolina Sports Update with Neil Curtis, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And we're back here. Let's see. Okay, cool. And we're back here on the show for IE Sports Radio, your three for sports. Like I left off a question before to the audience before we talk about the Knicks Celtics.
Mm-hmm.
In your opinion, we got two young dudes. One who's probably the MVP, and they probably wait till the series is done to get it cleared out the way. SGA. And we got another young dude, Anthony Edwards, who a lot of people like on the court. Off the court, he got to clean that up a lot. But in your opinion, what young dude do you want to carry your squad to the NBA Finals? Anthony Edwards or SGA?
That's a very tough question because I don't think it can go wrong either way. Right now, looking at SGA, he is 26, 30. He's averaging this year 32 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, which is just top of the line type stats. Obviously, team the best record in the West. You're looking at Anthony Edwards, 23, 27 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. I think for me, I probably would go SGA. And one of the main reasons why is because he is definitely an assist man. He's going to get a lot of people involved. And I was talking to my guy, one of my friends, a couple of days ago when the game was going on. And I think he was talking about how SGA didn't have the points that he needed the first quarter. And I said, well, SGA gets cooking later. He started to wake up third, fourth quarter when needed. So his biggest thing is he gets a lot of people involved early, and then he gets cooking. And that's what I really like about him. I think with Anthony Edwards, if I had to pick, I think he gets the team going by scoring. That's the biggest thing that I have with him is, yes, he's an outstanding player. Like I said, a hard decision to make in between. But with SGA, he's getting a lot of people involved early. He kind of lets the game come to him a little bit more, which is what I've noticed. Anthony Edwards does that, but he is more so of a scorer first. He gets his points. To whereas SGA does get his points, but just watching how smooth and patient he is with the game, definitely would like to have him lead my team in the NBA Finals. And that's why they built the team around how they have, right? They got a lot of different guards around him. They got the bigs. They got the bigs for him. He's just more so assist man. He kind of reminds me a little bit of how Magic plays. If you've seen just a little bit of how he's been, obviously Magic 6'7", 6'8", it's totally different guard. But just Magic wasn't the person that had to score a lot of points to get his team to the finals. He was more so of that rebounder, that assist man, and he would get cooking a little bit. Now, granted, SGA is a better shooter than Magic, but again, I think once SGA gets going, scoring, he's one of the best to do it. But he is an assist man I like. Anthony Edwards, again, like I said, it's a hard decision. No knock on him, but just I feel like he reminds me of a Dwayne Wade. That makes sense. That's kind of what Anthony Edwards reminds me of. Dwayne Wade a little bit. He's a pure shooting guard. You know what I mean? He gets shooting. Now he gets going. Now he slowly gets others involved. To where SGA kind of gives me that, okay, let me get all these other people started, and now I'm going to get cooking after. And I definitely like that about his game.
For me, oh, man, it's tough. I always love a bit. If I was coaching the NBA, I would always love to have a big guard pound the rock like SGA. Run like a triangle offense, have a big guard like him to kind of carry my team. My only thing is sometimes I kind of wish he was like a better facilitator. I mean, I don't mind the scoring, whatnot. He can score the hell of the ball. But sometimes I kind of wish, facilitation was a little bit better on that side of things. But other than that, that's my only clink right there. Edwards, though, he got a more vibrant personality in the SGA that kind of has carried the Wolves. Not saying SGA don't have a personality. I think he does. But you see it more with Anthony Edwards. Got that, if you want to say dog in him, got that more of that dog in him. You talking about like a dude from Georgia and talking about like a dude from Canada. And this ain't no shade of Canadians, but you talking about a dude from Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? Compared to dude to Toronto. If I had to go with one for right now, I gotta go with Edwards.
Ooh.
Just because I think, just that little bit more of the personality on the court.
Yeah.
I just think, it carries at times.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I kind of wish he would get better at and do more, and I'm glad some, the older heads, the analysts, whatnot, called it out. Now, drive the basket more. I know it's a jump shooting league now, but drive the basket more. You don't got no Bill Lambiers, you don't got no Dennis Rodmans, Rick Mahorns, Dale Davis, Charles Oakley's down low to kind of brush you up down low. You don't got those type of dudes in the NBA no more. Let's be real about that. Drive the basket more. in this matchup between OKC, get those guys like Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein in foul trouble. Get those guys in early foul trouble and make them go deep in the bench and see what those other young dudes on OKC got.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about the depth by OKC on that stuff. I think this is kind of proving, hey, get the other young bigs in there and see what they can do.
Yeah.
Or, or if they can't prove what they got, then OKC got to ship those dudes off. But I think, also defensively, he got, he could lead that way as well. And he has shown that, over his time over the years. So I love what, Anthony Edwards has grown into. At Georgia, it's Georgia basketball. It's okay program, but, it is what it is. But got to Minnesota, kind of took the bull by the horns, and now he's leading the way. And now with, A-Rod and crew about to take ownership here, and you kind of saw in the Lakers series how A-Rod was kind of like, and we know how A-Rod is and his mentality and whatnot. A-Rod and ownership and whatnot, and Edwards, they're on the court. Seems like we'll see how it goes, but right now it seems like a pretty good marriage in terms of how this team is going to be perceived, how they're going to be down the line. So right now going at Edwards, but for the other argument, SGA, he is a scorer. He can get buckets. It's really tough though. It's like you got two young dudes that you can't go wrong either way. But I'll let you have the last word.
I mean, like I said, either way you can't go wrong. But I think that's why both of these teams are where they are. You know what I mean? I think these teams have built their rosters around those specific players. You can't go wrong with either Anthony Edwards or SGA. Now, like I said, I think the Clippers are still kicking themselves because SGA could be the guy that they're building around. But it is what it is at this point. I feel like both of these are, like you said earlier, starting the show, these are going to be the new faces or continue to be the faces of the league right now. We have LeBron for so long, but now you have so many people coming after him. Luka is in LA. SGA, Ant-Man. Giannis is still there. But Giannis is 30. I believe I checked a couple of days ago. These guys are under 25, and they're going to be here for a while. So I think my biggest question is how long can Minnesota keep Anthony Edwards there? We always see these stars.
I think he'd be a lifer.
Yeah, I think that I definitely see that. But what does these big franchises do? Now, granted, we're seeing the Knicks move somewhere they haven't been in years. So them making a big trade was the Karl-Anthony Towns trade. So them looking for that player, I think it's probably going to be pushed back a little bit. Now, obviously, Giannis is possibly on the board. We'll talk about that. But he may get moved eventually somewhere. But, again, Minnesota needs to. I feel like that with Banchero. I'm like, well, hell, the Magic, y'all get a player, and what happened? They start doing good. And you don't sign them, or you ship them off, and they go to the Lakers or somebody like that. You got a player right now, and Banchero, who is just not hitting 21, 22, lock him up for life. He's making a big impact right now with this team. And I'm pretty sure Minnesota sees that in Ant-Man. So, for me, I think SGA and Anthony Edwards are guys that you cannot – that's basically a coin flip. Who would I want to build my franchise around? Basically a coin flip. Either one. That's a tough question to ask. What is heavier, a ton of feathers or a ton of bricks? So for me, I like both guys, man. And it's interesting you say that because I still get on 2K sometimes and start a complete fantasy drive. I probably do tonight and build around one player and see how that goes. So you can't go wrong with either. but both guys deserve to be where they are. Now it's going to come down to who has the better series. But not only that, as I said, I don't think it's going to be just the player. I think it's going to be their cast.
Yeah.
What does their cast and coaching do to get them? This series is going to be very interesting. It possibly may go to 7 because I think it's just matched up so good. But it's not going to be just Ant-Man or SGA. It's going to be Rudy Gobert. It's going to be Chet Holmgren. It's going to be Jalen Williams. Not the one. It's going to be Jalen Williams, the one at the center, the big. That's going to have to come in if Chet Holmgren and Hartenstein get in foul trouble. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
These guys are going to have to come in and play that role. So, but those two guys are hell of a great pieces to build around. OKC has, like I said, and on top of that, if there was a big piece being moved like a Giannis or somebody else, OKC has the depth to make that trade. Minnesota has the depth to make a possible trade if needed. So I don't know, man. Like I said, I think that was one of the toughest questions I've probably been asked because it's hard to pick one over the other.
And before we move to the Knicks and Boston Celtics talk and Pacers, the Boulder North breakdown brought up by Anthony Edwards. Don't forget the defensive end of the court. Yeah, he's very strong on that side. And he also brought up this point for this year. Now, you're talking about a Minnesota sports fan here. He said, I would go with SGA because he gets a ton of foul calls. Like I alluded to about Edwards, he got a little too happy at the three-point line. Drive the basket more. He's about 6'3", 6'4". He built very well. I mean, drive the basket. Chet Holmgren, he tall. He a tall man, but he ain't big. Drive the basket on him. Isaiah Hartenstein, but he's more wider and bigger. Drive the basket on him. He gets some foul trouble pretty easily. So drive the basket on these guys, dudes in this series. Drive on them. I know you probably got have Lou Dort on him for the majority of the series. That's gonna be a tough draw, but still, drive the basket on him. Get Lou Dort in foul trouble. Jalen Williams, if he having to guard you, get him in foul trouble. So that's how I look at it in this series. It's gonna be a very fun series, and see which of these young pups going to carry their team to the NBA Finals. D-Lock, I feel like we may have got the Eastern Conference Finals early. And we talked about, I think, a week or so ago that felt like this series was destined for the conference finals, but the Cleveland Cavaliers got in the way somehow. But the New York Knicks defeated the Boston Celtics 119-81. OG and Obi Brunson with 23 points apiece. The Garden was live from Jump Street to all the way to the end. They hopped on, I forgot what street it was outside the Garden, but you saw the videos. They're out there live, jumping on billboards, chasing down Boston fans and Pacers fans down the street, throwing trash at them and whatnot, which is wrong. Y'all kind of wild for that, New York fans. But the Garden was live. And whatnot. And then one more note. The series is going to be on, I think, TNT, I believe. Their last basketball broadcast for right now. And Reggie Miller will be calling that series, the Pacers and the Knicks.
Crazy.
Man, they probably gonna have the censor button just like this around Reggie's microphone. But anyways, D-Lock, the Knicks winning 6. Your thoughts on the Knicks winning this series? And does New York have a chance to go to the finals, in your opinion?
Well, I'm gonna say this. I give credit to you first. We talked about this I think a couple of weeks ago. Who we thought was gonna win this series, and you said that the Knicks were built to beat the Celtics, and it happened. Now, obviously, the big piece of Jason Tatum being injured played a huge role. But I think, man, to be honest, Jason Tatum not being there played a part, but then again, not a huge part.
Yeah.
Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Porzingis, who was on this team last year, Al Horford, Peyton Pritchard, these Missoula, they had all these guys. This team was still the team from previous the NBA champs in my eyes. We seen what Jaylen Brown did. We seen how Derek White, Drew Holiday played. They had the guys. So for me, I know that Tatum's injury did play a part, but I mean, to your point, the Knicks were built to beat this team. I mean, they had everything that was needed. Thibodeau is obviously, we know he loves his players to play hard and play 30 plus minutes, and that was what was needed to beat this Knicks team. You needed Josh Hart to have the series that he had. Mikal Bridges had a hell of a series, especially on the defensive side, locking down Tatum when he needed to. So this Knicks team was built for this matchup. And it was perfect. I mean, now the question for the Boston Celtics, we'll talk about it maybe a different show, is what the hell do they do with Porzingis? Because at this point, without Tatum, you would expect for him to step up. That did not happen. So that lies the question of what do they do? Another team that can possibly be looking for a big man. We talked about it earlier. Lakers and all these other teams. The Warriors also. Like I said, it sucks the fact that Jason Tatum did go down. Praying for a speedy recovery with that because he's one of the better players in the NBA. But I don't think it was a huge impact like Steph Curry getting hurt with the Warriors against the Timberwolves. I don't think it was that big because of the base and the team that they still had in Boston. I just think New York was just on fire. We should have known that once that game was in New York, that game 6 was in New York, and what was at stake, ain't no way in hell that New York was going to lose that. So for me, the Knicks, this is really crazy to see, but the Knicks, they look really good, man. I mean, I think they're going to be a very tough team to play against. And do they have a chance to go to that question? Do they have a chance to go to the NBA Finals? They do, but I think they're going to have to go on their bench to stick with the Pacers.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that is because OKC, Minnesota, and Pacers are the three teams out of all. They're the teams that are in the conference finals that have depth. Tyrese Halliburton is not the only person that needs to score a lot of points for this team. TJ McConnell can come off the bench sometime. Benedict Mathurin can come off the bench sometime. Naismith can go out there and go hard sometime. Nembhard can go out there and get some points. Siakam can go out there and get some points. Miles Turner, they have all these guys. Like, they have a sense of rotation where these guys can get clicking. And this is another defensive team. So I'm not gonna sit here and say, well, I think this is Knicks in 5. I don't see that. I think this game goes to. I think this series.
There's more tougher ones, to be honest.
Yes, that's going to be very tough. I think Brunson and Halliburton, although we've seen them on the wrestling, I think they still match up great against each other. But this is going to be a series for the ages. And quick story, I was watching the Winning Time with Reggie Miller before the series is even solidified. So, the history of the Pacers and the Knicks going back and forth has been there for some years.
Yes.
Now it's back. So, you talk about Reggie Miller, calling this game. I'm pretty sure John Starks is probably going to be at damn near every game as well. So is Spike Lee. So, this series is going to be very interesting. It's going to be a very good, very, very good series. To be honest with you, man, I don't think I could pick what game it ends at right now. I'm trying to think because I can't pick who wins. I think the Pacers are going to be very tough. If you told me to pick now, I probably would say the Pacers will win the series. And because depth is crucial. You got to have depth. New York is talented. They got the roster. But at some point, like we said last year, when do those minutes come around and creep up on you?
Yeah.
That's the only question. Does it happen this series, or does it happen in the NBA Finals? Or do we see more of Cameron Payne?
Oh no, you don't.
Yeah, who do we see in rotation? Or McBride? Do we see more Miles McBride in this? Which I think we have to because of the guards that the Pacers have, the small ball that they can play. So I think you see more Miles McBride, but those minutes are going to creep up on who? And that's what I mean is who's going to be fresh for the 7-game series. So right now, like I said, depth-wise, I do like the Pacers. But I ain't gonna lie, man. That arena in New York is gonna be going crazy every game, and it's gonna be hard to see the Pacers sneak a win out of there at all. So, Madison Square Garden is gonna be super insane. It's gonna be hard to see the Knicks lose there, but the Pacers are coming in super confident. They're gonna be fresh too, man. So, like I said, I think this series is going to be one for the ages, and that's why I like the Eastern and Western Conference Finals, because you're looking at matchups of 4 teams. Easily, all 4 of these teams can go to the NBA Finals, but somebody can't go, and 3 teams can't win a championship. Only one.
Yep.
So as much as we like a lot of talk I said about OKC, a lot of talk I said Timberwolves. A lot said about the Knicks. A lot said about the Pacers. All of them can't win. Somebody has to lose. Now, the momentum that the Knicks are bringing in is they just took down the reigning champs. Cool. The thing that the OKC is bringing in is they just beat MVP-led Denver Nuggets. Cool. The thing that the Timberwolves have is they just beat Steph Curry and the Warriors. So these, you know what I mean? They have these momentum. Indiana Pacers beating Milwaukee, who won a championship a couple years ago. So these 4 teams have a good chance, but not all 4 of them can win. So that's why everybody need to make sure that we are tuned in, man, because these series is about to get very interesting.
Real quick for me on this series, like I said, when the New York Knicks made their moves in Karl Towns and Mikal Bridges, and I still think they gave up a lot for Mikal Bridges. 5 first-round picks for him was kind of excessive. But anyways, they made these moves. They made these moves to compete with Boston, in my humble opinion. Last year in the playoffs, they got beat by the Pacers. They kind of went out sad in the sense that, like you mentioned about the injuries and time, stuff like that, it crept up on them that series against the Pacers. Hart went out, Brunson went out. It kind of really crippled them. Now you get to here. Okay, you made a move for Bridges, made a move for Towns. Now you kind of hate that you gave up a 6-man piece in DiVincenzo, but I think you kind of recovered nicely in the sense that you got something out of Miles McBride.
Yeah.
That kind of softened the blow. You mentioned about going deep in the bench. That's something they probably had to work on all season because Cameron Payne, I mean, he's okay, but the time he got in, I saw in the series, that jump shot still looked like shit to me.
Mm-hmm.
The way he don't square his body up and all that, it still looked like shit to me. And then some of the other guards I saw the other day when they had a blowout against the Celtics, damn, I don't know who these dudes are. But anyways, having said that, go back to the series. I knew the Celtics were losing the series when they came back on them in the 2 games in Boston. They were down big, the Knicks were, both times in Boston, and they came back and won both of those games. Talk about the Knicks. I said, you know what? The Knicks got this series. Yeah, yes, I know it went to 6, but they got this series because if you come back up at home in Boston like that, then you got this in the bag in a sense. And, Miles Bridges, 2 straight games
Mm-hmm.
in Boston came up big. And that's what you gave all the draft picks for. We just took Jaylen Brown's cookies in game 1 and the beautiful black box shot in game 2 against Tatum. Then you came game 3. Boston shot the ball very well and whatnot. It is what it is there. I think the Knicks kind of came out expecting them to go cold and it didn't happen. Game 4, New York came in and did a thing, whatnot. And then the Tatum injury, I know it hurt, but Boston came back and won the next game, though.
Mm-hmm.
That's my thing. And I think that's one thing, how Boston felt to his roster, that, something happens, you got other guys that soften the blow. And then, of course, game 6, New York just came out like gangbusters, and they didn't look back at all. Brunson shot the ball well. OG shot the ball well. Heart bleeding everywhere. He played well. All that good stuff. So for me, this is what the roster was built for this year, to do this year. And it got the job done. Now against the Pacers, for me, it's going to be pretty good matchup. In my opinion. Can the Knicks get revenge on the Pacers? And like you brought up, with Tibbs going so top heavy and whatnot. And one thing I criticized Tibbs on our shows count, man. It's like, okay, you're a big game 6 against Celtics. Why you still got your starters in? I understand, leads disappear somewhat, but you don't risk injury to your top of the rotation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you still got Jalen Brunson, Cat, all those guys still running out there. You got to take them out. And you got to tell the other guys like Brad and other dudes deep in your bench, hey, play smart, play sound basketball, play sound defense, all that good stuff. Do those things. All right? You still got to do that. You can't risk injury. Even the commentator said, gotta get these guys out. Still got 4 more games to win next round. So for me, for this Knicks team, I like it. I love the energy. This series should be fun. The game would come on decent time, all that stuff. So it should be a fun series. Halliburton, Brunson should be a great matchup. The point guard spots. I think for the Pacers, for me, it's like, who from the role players going to step up? Bennett Mathurin, Neesmith. Can TJ McConnell sneak you a good game right there? Miles Turner, he got to contend with Cat, Mitchell Robinson. He played very well in that Boston series, offensive rebounding and all. He played very well. Hell, he shot the free throws well in game 6. That was the big plus right there. So I know Knicks fans, they're happy, they're excited. They're running up and down around the Garden, Times Square, all that stuff. But you got a tough opponent coming in.
Yeah.
And they made back-to-back conference finals as well, kind of like the Timberwolves. They made back-to-back conference finals and won your arch rivals. So if you're Knicks fans, I know you're happy. You feel good in a long time. But we'll see how this series goes, because you're talking about Rick Carlisle team, and you're talking about a little deep, like you mentioned, a little bit deeper bench in the Pacers compared to the Knicks, in my opinion. I kind of like some of their rotational guys better than the Knicks.
And that's what I'm saying. I agree with you there. I think, this Pacers team, man, they again, it's not just Tyrese Halliburton. Not just Siakam. They got some guys that can go out there, Nebhard had a hell of a series too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not. Although we know we've seen Halliburton close a few games, but there was some other guys that came in and played crucial as well. I think Benedict Mathurin was in foul trouble for a lot of games, but I don't think that it's going to happen often. But if he gets a chance to cook as well, now you're in a situation where that rotation is starting to cook. And don't forget, Obi Toppin can go out there and cook as well. So they got some guys, and that's my only worry with the Knicks is these guys been stacking up 30+ minutes, 40+ minutes. How do that play a huge part in a 7-game series?
Yeah. How long do you say you got the series going?
Man, I'm still. Who's at home first? Knicks.
The Knicks.
I got to go in the 6. You know what? I got to go in the 6. If it goes to 7, the Knicks are gonna win.
So you got Pacers in 6.
I think I'll take a bold statement.
Ooh.
Yeah. Even though I just said I don't see the Knicks losing at home, Madison Square Garden, but I think the Knicks still win in the Madison Square Garden. I don't know which game. It ain't gonna be game. Well, it might game 1. It might be game 1, but I don't think so. I think the Pacers still a game in Madison Square Garden.
I think so too.
And they close it in 6 because they know if they go to 7, it's probably you're looking at trouble. That game, so you do really look at the trouble. So I think they go into with a 3-2 lead at game 6, and it gets done. I mean, at this point, you don't want to go to 7, especially what I just seen is game 6 with Boston. Well, Boston didn't have a chance in hell that game. Jason Tatum could have played that game. They had no chance. So I think one game the Pacers still won, maybe like a 2 or 3 point game, like a 1 possession game. I think the Pacers still won, and they go to game 6, man, with 3. They go to game 6 with 3, wrap it up. Now, if the Pacers mess around and lose at home at game 6, all bets are off. But I think Pacers win in 6. I just, like you said, my worry is, man, like they have a 6-man rotation in New York, and the Pacers have 8+, 7, 8. They, you know what I mean? We see teams get in the playoffs and they shorten their rotation of players. The Pacers are not doing that. They're doing a little bit, but they're still getting their guys in, and they can do that when T.J. McConnell can come in and play hella defense. Benedict Mathurin can come in and get the shots up, so you can give Tyrese Halliburton that little break that he needs. The guards are the reason why they get a chance to get these rotations. So, again, I think that bites New York in the ass, man. I think 30+ minutes. At some point, these guys are going to get tired at some point. And what game is it? Where does it show? So I got the Pacers at 6, man.
I got the Knicks at 7.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those.
It's going to be one of those. Only reason I can say I got the Knicks winning the series, only reason I can see it in 6 if only reason I can see it in 6 if they take care of business at home in the first 2 games. And one thing I think that's got Tibbs in trouble in the Boston series, and luckily, like his team pulled through. Lucky for him, his team pulled through, but he cannot start slow again. I mean, in this series, New York can't go down big like against Boston. They can't, because we seen this playoffs. Once you get down big, you ain't coming back.
Nah.
And we seen the Pacers and Cavs series. Once your team get down big, ain't no letting up at all. So if you're the Knicks, you know, you guys come out strong and stay strong all the way through. I think they can do that. I think they can win in 6. But I feel the guy is going to 7 because Indiana's going to play very hard at home and whatnot. Halliburton is kind of really showing that poll that they put out about being overrated and stuff like that. I think he really took that to heart and, you know, showing folks, okay, this is why I'm here and whatnot. And I have led my team to back-to-back conference finals. So who's overrated there? But I got the Knicks in 7. You got the Pacers in 6. So it'd be really interesting to see, you know, how this goes. But I think it comes down to coaching, especially on Tibbs' side of things. Great defensive coach, but his management is going to be his Achilles heel, win or lose the series, in my humble opinion. I'll let you have the last word.
Rick Carlisle is a hell of a coach. We already know the history that he has. So like you said, it's going to come down to coaching. And that's the adjustment that needs to be made on both ends. But Rick Carlisle is a championship coach, a champ coach. So he knows. So that's why I said the Pacers are going to be very tough. Halliburton has been playing with a chip on his shoulder ever since the Olympics. So again, I think this team is going to be tough. Don't forget they got Siakam over there as well. He knows a little bit about winning as well. So I think that this team is going to be very tough to match. Yeah. I think it's a fair matchup, but I think, again, you know, the Knicks ran into Boston where who's coming off the bench for Boston outside of Peyton Pritchard? They're not bringing anybody off the bench like that. So now you go to a team that has a little bit of rotation that Tyrese Halliburton is not putting up 35 plus minutes per game. He's probably averaging around 27, 28. They're getting that rotation in. And that's the thing. This team needs to have that. So at some point, I think that this game, like I said, you got them in 7. I got it in 6. I think it's either or. I don't think it ends in 5 or 4. I don't think no team gets swept. I think both teams are just too talented for that. I love this part of the NBA season, man.
Yep. Before we get out of here, D-Lock, I know you weren't here for this, but I gave my thoughts on the draft lottery real quick. What were your thoughts on the draft lottery results with the Mavericks getting the number 1 overall pick, followed by the Spurs at 2nd, and I think the Sixers at 3rd there? What were your thoughts on the draft lottery results in your opinion?
I do find it very ironic that the Mavs got the number 1 pick after trading away their best player.
Yeah.
I looking at Anthony Davis getting traded, then they go get Zion. I think it was something else. Somebody else got traded. I think LeBron got traded, then they got a number 1 pick. So to me, this is a very weird. I think they had 5 or 6% to get the number 1 pick or something like that. It was something super low. But again, I mean, I think the lottery. To be honest with you, man, I wish the NFL did something like this.
You think so?
Yeah, like I mean, I get to have the worst because what happens is the team now in the NFL, man, teams are tanking on purpose, but they know they're gonna get the number 1 pick. Now you got some teams that may tank in the NBA. Let's say the Spurs tried to do that, and it didn't work. They got the 2nd overall pick. Now 2nd is not better than 1. I mean, 2nd is still a pretty decent pick, but Cooper Flag is who he is. So I'm saying that there's teams in the NFL that get to week 15, 12, 13, and they're like, okay, well, we're not going to go to playoffs. So what quarterback is up on the board? Let's go ahead and, to try to figure out a way to get them. But I think when you have a lottery, which is much time we want to say it does seem rigged. I think it is just it's a ironic type. I mean, there's a lot of things that has happened. And back when I was I think we were in middle school, I believe it was, when the Giants and the Patriots played in the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
the Patriots were undefeated, And the last team that they beat to be undefeated in the season was the Giants. So how ironic or rigged that is that they lose their last game of the season in the Super Bowl to the Giants. You know what I mean? So it's just some things that are just so damn, you know what I mean? It's kind of crazy. It's so crazy. It's rigged. I think about that sometimes too, but it just happens so many times. It's just ironic moments, man. So for me, I still think it is kind of like, well, damn. I thought that the Mavs were cooked. But now they go get Cooper Flag, and hell, to be honest with you, they're probably in a better position than they were before. Because now you got Anthony Davis, you got Kyrie, who you're competing for a championship now, and then you got Cooper Flag for the future. So it was like I said, I think that was obviously to a lot of people, that was the biggest shocker. But that's why you have a lottery. So I'm not too mad about it. I'm just hoping that my Magic stay out of that lottery pick right now. But what is going to be interesting is what do the Spurs do with that second pick? You know, we're talking about what Giannis wants to do. Does he think about going other places? I'm not sure if you guys got Twitter, but he is actually literally answering every question on Twitter right now. If you tell him his favorite city to go to, he's going to tweet back to you. So he's obviously doing question and answers, and it's also a thought of he may be leaving Milwaukee. So do the Spurs consider moving that pick for him, if possible? Who knows? So, but yeah, man, it was very interesting. But obviously the surprise of the night was the Mavericks getting that number one pick, getting Cooper Flag.
I'll share my thoughts with you real quick. What I said, Nico Harrison's a very lucky man.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't condone the death threats stuff he got when he traded Luka, but he's when the trade went down, we talked about it. Like, I can see it, if you have issues with your player and whatnot, and you try and get him shape up and all that good stuff. But other side of things is that it's still your franchise player. And you gotta find a way to work it out. Now, as been reported, the Lakers are kind of down the list on that Luka trade part, and as reports been confirmed, Anthony Edwards and Giannis were kind of the first two he kind of called the trade about. Like I said, Lakers down the list, and like I also said about the Lakers, Rob Pelinka got gift wrapped a player to build around. So for me in the draft lottery, Dallas probably make the obvious pick, take Flag, and like you said, they set up to do well again. Anthony Davis in his 30s, Kyrie is coming off an ACL injury, Klay Thompson, I hate to say it like this, but a shell and former self.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing Dallas really got going, right now is this future first round pick in Cooper Flag and Derek Lively. And then you got two corner pieces right there. And then what are you going to do after that? So that's the thing I'm looking at towards the future there. And then like the Spurs, Sixers. I'm curious, like you said, the Spurs do. They could add somebody. I think Ace Bailey would be a good fit with them. Because Jeremy, you try with Jeremy Sohan, it's not working. And then I can also add Stephen Castle, he won the Rookie of the Year, but let's be real. If Jeremy Kane would have stayed healthy, I think he'd been a run in as well. So you got that. So you got De'Aaron Fox there, Victor. If you do say the pick, draft Ace Bailey. I know Dylan Burke. I got Dylan Harper ahead of Ace Bailey, but I think Ace Bailey kind of fit better with that squad. So now you look at a squad of De'Aaron Fox, Castle, Bailey, Victor, and try and find somebody at the 4th spot.
Right.
And then for the Sixers, Just take the best player available. If you stay in that spot, just take the best player available. Do you go the big man route? Do you take another guard to match up with Tyrese Maxey? If Ace Belly falls down to you at 3, do you take him? I think for the Sixers, with the Spurs, you got Victor and De'Aaron Fox there. With the Sixers, Joel Embiid, how many years he got left? Do they move out Paul George?
Just getting them.
So Sixers got a lot of questions about their future in this draft here. And then the other teams that fell in the top 3, in my opinion, and people bitching about the Wizards, Jazz, Hornets. I'm going to say this about these 3 teams real quick. I'll put Utah to the side. For the Wizards and Hornets, I understand getting the top pick would change your fortunes, but let's be real, folks. The past at least 10 years or so, they drafted terribly. Where have they been at? Especially the Hornets.
Mm-hmm.
Both of these teams have drafted badly over the past few years. I understand the number 1 pick and stuff like that, or the top 2 at least, could change your team's fortunes. I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
For the Hornets, we'll see how Brandon Miller does and whatnot. But both of these teams have drafted bad over the few years. Hornets drafted big men and have not worked out at all. The Wizards that took wing players in the first round have not worked out at all. The Hornets got a big man named Mark Williams that is trying to throw shade at the Lakers, but the dude can't stay in the court. I understand being mad and whatnot. I understand that, but just your teams have not drafted well. Your front office is crap. Ownership has been crap. Now, the reason I put the Jazz to the side, they show they have hit some picks over the past few years, and they in clear rebuild mode. And I can expect the Jazz to get back up to where their standards are. So I ain't worried about them. But the other teams, you got to find some better scouts or something. We follow scouts on our show page. There's some good scouts out there. I don't know who they hire within the system or buddy system, wherever in the NBA, but the scouting got to be better. Some good guys coming out in these drafts. So use your first and second round picks and 2-way contracts for the summer to get better. I understand, the draft may be rigged. I understand, the Dallas probably didn't deserve that first round pick, a first overall pick. Let's be real about that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I mean, y'all still got draft better. Y'all still got scouts better.
Yeah, you're right.
So we'll see about that. All that good stuff there. All that good stuff. I had to get that out of the way. All that good stuff. But this has been our show tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for tuning in with us. I know we kind of went long with the playoff talk, and I know the WNBA has started. D-Lock, the fake pieces between Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark are often early right now.
Early.
So it seems like this WNBA season going to be up for another doozy.
Yeah.
If you follow our show's account page, if we don't tweet about Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese matchups, because we won't be caught up in the storm. We just want to tweet about the game. Nothing else.
That's it.
That's it. We ain't trying to gaslight people like Dave Portnoy and whatever. But we just want to try to tweet about the game. I don't care, Caitlin, Powell, Angel Hall, whatever. We'll talk about it and stuff like that, but we ain't trying to do no think people. That's all I got to say. But do follow our show's page right there on Twitter/X right there. You like how many people on your social media?
Definitely find me at Black-813, man. Shout out to my University of Pittsburgh team at ACC. We did a great job this past week. Got regions coming up next week, so we'll be up there. But I definitely do a lot of tweets there, man. Let me know where they can find you, and obviously to the show's page there.
Follow me at Spawn4288. Spawn42 right there. My handle right there for X, Twitter. On the bottom right there, do follow All Sports Radio on your social media feed. X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Try and get that numbers up right there. Also follow us on Spreaker. We post our audio shows on there as well. Check out iSportsRadio.com for all your latest shows, news, feeds as well. And check out our page on iSportsRadio.com/fastbreakers there as well. I do another show on the side called The Crooks Process. I did a video on YouTube a couple days ago talking about my Tennessee Titans and their draft and stuff like that. So you can check out my page there on The Crooks Process on Instagram and Facebook. Link it there soon. But till then, ladies and gentlemen, playoff talk is more to come. WNBA is here. And we're going to make the NBA Finals. We'll talk to y'all next week. Peace.